Lusamine, the main villain of Pokémon Sun and Moon and a fan favorite character for the past 10 years. And there's recently been a lot of appreciation for this character across the internet, potentially set off by a certain cheeseburger. I figured now was the perfect time to embrace the summer vibes of Alola and talk about Lusamine. So definitely I discussed this character in the past, but that more so was through the lens of discussing why she was a very creepy villain. And while yes, I still do think there's a lot of unnerving stuff around her, genuinely I think she is one of the main villains in Pokemon who deserves to be redeemed by the end, unlike some other characters. And throughout the years since the video games across the franchise, we've seen her utilized in different ways that are a lot more friendlier, and it actually works out. So anyway, when it does come to the actual video games themselves, Lusamine as well as the rest of the Aether Foundation were revealed in a trailer leading up to the release of the game. And while she was presented as a nice character alongside the rest of the Aether Foundation, a good amount of fans suspected that they might actually be the real villains of the story. And yeah, they were definitely right. Well, at least Lusamine was. Not everybody associated with Aether was necessarily a villain, but Lusamine herself as a character was really interesting the more we learn about her. Before the events of the video game, everything was relatively fine, as she headed up the Aether Foundation alongside her husband Mohn. Their two children, Gladion and Lily, were growing up in a nice little family. That is until one day Mohn disappeared in an experiment connected to Ultra Beast, and that caused her degradation behind the scenes. When we the protagonist first meet her in the Aether Foundation, she's generally really friendly up front and still believes in her mission of saving Pokemon in the Aether Foundation, but at this point we don't understand the true intentions of how her nature has changed, to the point that her two children are no longer living with her. Gladion has taken an experimental Pokemon with him and has joined Team Skull. Lily has also taken a very important Pokemon with her, which we see in the cutscene that opens the game, and she is hanging out with the professor as well as the player character. What we really learn about Lusamine is that she is somebody who started off with some good intentions, genuinely wanting to protect and care for Pokemon. She is somebody who cares about preservation, and that is how she shows her love. But after losing Mohn to the Ultra Beast, which she then becomes obsessed with, wanting to make her way to Ultra Space herself, her obsession eventually becomes extreme control that then pushes away both of her children. And through her trauma, she's become convinced that this is the only way that she can really be happy, if she does everything she can to control every little aspect of her life, keeping everybody together by force and getting back what she had lost at any cost. But she gets so blinded by her obsession that she speaks to her children in just a terrible way, nearly convinced that they don't love her back because they aren't staying with her. And the thing is that her children have gone through so much too that she just isn't understanding. I know, all very complex family drama at the center of a Pokemon game, but I think that's something that really makes it work out. Obviously it is all set against this backdrop of an Ultra Space adventure, but I think really tying everything together and focusing on family is what makes this game so strong. And obviously we see the theme of family in so many other aspects of this game as well, but when it comes to Lusamine specifically, her obsession with the Ultra Beast evolves in such a way that she genuinely loses the family she once wanted to hold dear. Her goal then becomes wanting to get to Ultra Space to protect the Ultra Beasts themselves, because if her own children aren't going to stay with her, then maybe these weird little jelly kids are going to. But I do really think it is crazy just how ruthless she ends up being. Again, not just the verbal abuse that she puts her children through, but also when she captures Cosmog and puts it in the little Necrozma-shaped machine, the way that she drains its energy to create the Ultra Wormhole is really damaging to it, this being a Pokemon that Lily has really grown close to. And when we eventually confront her in Ultra Space, there's obviously the whole final battle where she fuses with a Nihilego, and that is amazing. Back when I first played this game, I was a little disappointed that we didn't get to actually battle this monstrosity and she just sounds out a Pokeball, and it's a relatively standard battle, but nowadays I think it's okay because there's a lot more importance placed on this scene in terms of narrative rather than gameplay, because the fact that she fuses with the Ultra Beast and forms this monstrosity is because of her deep emotions really being brought out by the Nihilego. These are a Pokemon that latch onto a host and bring out their deeper emotions and latent abilities, and manifested in Lusamine as this really big monster. Still definitely one of the craziest moments in a Pokemon game, but I think the real kicker is obviously when we finally defeat her with the help of the legendary Pokemon, and then she has a moment to reconnect with Lily. Of course, being free from the influence of the Ultra Beast and now completely vulnerable, she's able to realize exactly what she's done and now sees Lily before her, who has had her own journey and is another character that could use an entire other discussion. But the point is, I really like this moment as she acknowledges how beautiful Lily has become, and those are her own words that are very impactful because again, Lusamine was somebody who was obsessed with preserving beauty. The way that she set out the Aether Foundation, the way that she froze a bunch of Pokemon to keep them preserved, and even the way that she had personally dressed Lily. Yeah, remember Lily's default outfit is very reminiscent of Nihilego? That of course obviously isn't meant to be a connection for the Ultra Beast human theory, but rather it's a symbol of how Lusamine's obsession has really taken over her life. While Gladion had already been off on his own and was dressing how he piece all fit. It took Lily until a few months of the beginning of the game to leave Lusamine, and while Lily was still living with Lusamine, she was the one who decided what she wore. So that is why it's so impactful later on in the game when Lily decides to choose her own outfit, which is what she's wearing during the final confrontation. So now Lusamine here being defeated and shown just how she can't really preserve the Ultra Beast in the way she wants, and no longer has any control over Lily, who has really grown as a person herself and now saved Lusamine, the fact that she acknowledges how beautiful she is really drives it all home. She has seen what she's done wrong and what her children are really capable of doing, and she does get to realize the family she wanted to preserve in the first place can actually maybe all come back together. So yes, that is a really great story, and I love how it all goes in the Sun and Moon games, and while I used to not be the biggest fan of how it went down in Ultra Sun and Moon, I've come around to it and I understand it as its own thing, because there was a lot more to Ultra Sun and Moon that I do really like, and for the most part Lusamine still does have a similar-ish character arc, where she more or less treats her children a similar way, and the humbling moment that she gets during the climax is at the hands of Ultra Necrozma instead, which is the actual big bad villain of the game, if we want to call Ultra Necrozma a villain, I guess. The point is that in Ultra Sun and Moon, I still do like her character and we can accept it as its own alternate reality, in the same way that the anime is also another alternate reality. Now, I still have yet to actually watch all of Sun and Moon, and I feel like I've been saying that for a long time, so by the way, like and subscribe, show your support so maybe I can do YouTube a little more full time and spend some of my summer actually watching Sun and Moon. But anyway, Lusamine in the anime at first seemed like she wasn't going to have the same impact as she did in the video game, and while the story is definitely different, which I'll probably go into deeper at a later point, at its core this is still a very broken family, though I feel like in the anime we get a lot more focus on Lily, who again is a pretty good character on her own. If anything, the anime provides us an alternate reality where we got to see a little more of Lusamine being a little friendlier, but again she is still traumatized and has her own flaws here and there, but at the very least the anime does give us the closure of everybody coming back together, including Mohn. That was something else I also discussed in a different video, though I will say it is very much appreciated that it actually happened. So yeah, those are my thoughts, my little discussion and analysis on Lusamine as a character who I feel like I sort of discussed back then, but not necessarily in an all-encompassing sort of way or really focused way that I did now. And like I said, I've just really been appreciating a lot of what I've seen for Lusamine. Somehow a lot of her vileness feels a lot more real than any other Pokemon villain, but once again just how she works as a character alongside all these other characters that are also built up, you genuinely do want to see them all come back together and be a family once again. So anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below about Lusamine and the rest of the Aether family, and what else you would like to see me discuss about Sun and Moon as we continue on toward the 10th anniversary. If you enjoyed watching, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and hype up the video if you're on mobile, but anyway I should get back to my own vacation in Alola as we continue on towards summer. Thanking every channel member for your continued support, including the Great Gators, Benjamin, Oy Kareem, Justin Dowes, Jackson Stefaniak, Reclaimer, Cosmo Zero, Alex with Shiny Hunts, Starshooter, KoiKoi13, Cheez-It62, GatorKid509, TF, Mathaclog947, Taijirai, and Quago. If you would like to support, see your name here, get access to emotes, 4 comments, live streams, sometimes early videos, and our members' Discord server, you can become a channel member today. You can also follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky as well for more memes. Anyway, this is GatorX, and I will catch you all later.
You can discover new Pokémon and explore a world beyond your own in Pokémon Sun and Pokémon Moon on Nintendo 3DS. Games rated everyone.